At the onset, my thanks to APA for giving me this opportunity to accommodate the thyroid lecture in I am said it's a fever symposium. So, lot of thanks to APA for giving this opportunity again, and I will be talking about subclinical hypothyroidism. So I kept on hearing when I was a medical student and when I was a PhD student, the endocrinologists are very busy. So after I became an endocrinologist, I came to know why they are busy. Because nowadays, in majority of labs and hospitals, as a part of package, they are doing TSH test. And invariably, the patients get a report of TSH value of 6, 7 or somewhere between 5 to 10. And the clinicians and the patients get confused. Because patients are not doctors. So they get worried that my TSH is out of range. So what does it mean? So their anxiety is understandable. But we clinicians who are not trained with the latest advances in the thyroid management, we also get confused that the patient has come with this report. Now should we treat the patient with thyroxine or should we leave that TSH alone? So some of these aspects for the benefit of family physicians, I will be addressing, because most of such patients, they are first contacting the family physician. So it's your duty and it's your right to counsel the patient appropriately, whether treatment is required or it is not required, and when to refer to a specialist when the things are not manageable at your level. So first of all, what is subclinical hypothyroidism? The subclinical hypothyroidism, definition-wise, a very simple definition, that elevated TSH with normal T3 and T4. So that is the simplest definition of subclinical hypothyroidism. Right? Now let us make it slightly more complicated. So subclinical hypothyroidism is persistently, that is 12 weeks or longer, high TSH levels of more than 4.5. Normal total of free T3 and T3 level, T4 and T3 level after repeated measurement. So one report might not be sufficient to diagnose a person as having a thyroid hypothyroidism or subclinical hypothyroidism, and with few or no signs or symptoms of hypothyroidism. So first of all, I would like to stress the last point, that there might be few or no signs of hypo or hypothyroidism. Now usually what happens, why the patient goes for a thyroid check? The patient is gaining abnormal weight. Patient gains 10 to 15 kg of weight. Then they think that there is no fault with my lifestyle, which actually is at fault. But they don't agree that their lifestyle is at fault. And they go for a thyroid test. And they get a report of 7 years old. So they get very excited. Oh, we have found a cause of my obesity. And then they go to the doctor. They now treat this hypothyroidism and make me slim. So to treat the hypothyroidism is easy, but to make them slim is impossible without their efforts. Right? The thyroxine is not a magic pill which can cause a weight loss. That's what I want to stress to all of you. Because if you give the patients a false hope that you found out a cause in a TSH of 7 of the cause of weight gain, then the patient and you are going to be disappointed at the end of 3 months. I have seen that if you give false reassurance to the patient that you are going to lose weight, the patient comes with weight gain next time. And the patient says that I have gained more weight after the medicine. Why? Because subconsciously the patient thinks that we have found the cause of their obesity and they keep on overeating and they put on more weight. So patients with subclinical hypothyroidism can be categorized into those with mildly elevated TSH, that is a TSH level of 4.5 to 10, and markedly elevated TSH. So a threshold of 10 is very important. Whenever a patient crosses the threshold of TSH of 10, 99% of patients requires a thyroxine treatment. Why I am not saying 100%? Because there are some exceptions. Patients who are elderly or geriatric, patients who are more than 70 years of age. Usually we are more lenient in not starting the treatment. If a patient is geriatric with a TSH of 10, 11 with normal T3, T4, I will advise most of you should not start treatment because it will harm that gentleman or lady more than the benefit. They might end up with osteoporosis, they might end up with atrial fibrillation, and that might reduce their longevity. So keep the TSH level slightly high in geriatric patients, but in rest of the patients, any TSH of more than 10 per requires thyroxine. So this is some epidemiological data that what is the prevalence of subclinical hypothyroidism. It varies somewhere between say 6 or 9 to 25%. So the prevalence is huge, and that is why this health checkup packages and the thyroid care packages, they are picking up more and more patients with subclinical hypothyroidism, because the general prevalence is around 8 to 25% in the population. So naturally they are going to be picked up. Now this is the severity of primary hypothyroidism, or I will say it's a natural course or progression of hypothyroidism. So you can see that the TSH starts rising when our thyroid gland fails. The first thing which is visible is sharp and marked rise in TSH. Here you can see that the TSH was all along going normal. Suddenly something happened in thyroid gland, and the first thing is manifested by sharp increase in TSH. Whereas T3 and T4 levels are in normal range for a long period of time, even after the TSH starts rising, and it starts falling pretty late in the course of the disease. So another question which will come in your mind, that will all patients with mildly elevated TSH progress to frank hypothyroidism? So that is another important question to be answered. The answer is no. Around 50% of these patients might progress to clinical hypothyroidism. 50% of them will not progress, and even 8 to 10% can regress back to normal. So that is where the catch lies, that not everybody progresses to overt hypothyroidism. Now, there are certain things to be ruled out when there is a transient increase in TSH level before the diagnosis of subclinical hypothyroidism. So, the first thing we should rule out is that was the patient suffering from acute viral illness in weeks or months preceding the increase in TSH. Because any non-thyroidal illness will cause a transient increase in TSH level, and it usually subsides to normal levels in subsequent 1 or 2 months. See, if the patient is having such history, don't hurry yourself in starting the thyroxine therapy. And other is recovery phase of various types of thyroiditis. Now, you must be seeing in your practice, typically the patient comes with acute onset of pain in the front of neck and mild fever. And if you get a T3, T4, TSH, it gives a picture of hyperthyroidism. So T3 is high, T4 is high, TSH is low. And you are tempted to start with a carbimazole. But actually it's a case of viral thyroiditis. And you should follow up such patients for 2 months. And usually they become euthyroid. And transiently, after a euthyroid phase, they become hypothyroid. The TSH rises slightly. But within 6 months, they become euthyroid. So that is a typical pattern of picture of hyperthyroidism, euthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and then again normothyroidism. So that is this cycle of subacute thyroiditis. You should rule out such things. Medications such as amiodarone and lithium. So cardiologists and psychiatrists are frequently using these medicines, and if patient is on any other such medicine, that can also cause a slight increase in TSH, or it can also lead to frank thyroid abnormalities. If there are frank thyroid abnormalities, hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, you have to treat it. But if it is subclinical hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, you can leave it alone. Now there are other causes, obesity as I said. The patient who start gaining weight, they will go to lab and they will, first thing they will get the thyroid check and they will get such weight. But you should not be very impatient to start the treatment in such patients. And I will tell you when to start treatment in the next slide. So first of all, I will discuss what are the consequences of the subclinical hypothyroidism. So one is the progression to overt hypothyroidism. I was saying that about 50% of them in their lifetime will progress to overt hypothyroidism. So earlier the better you treat. Because even in diabetes now, we treat patients with metformin in pre-diabetes. So why not in hypothyroidism? Why not in subclinical hypothyroidism? So that is our one debate going here in our endocrine bodies. So if we are treating pre-hypertension, if we are treating pre-diabetes, why not subclinical hypothyroidism? Symptoms of hypothyroidism, that is tiredness, decreased cognition. So typically the patient will come that I have become more forgetful and I feel more lethargic. These symptoms are non-specific. But sometimes subclinical hypothyroidism can also lead to such manifestations. Surrogate markers of cardiovascular risk, that is elevation in total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, increased carotid wall media thickness and decreased cardiac function, risk of coronary heart disease, and risk of congestive heart failure. I will quickly take you through this slide. So progression to overt hypothyroidism. So this is a 10-year period study data. 57% of patients continue to have mild thyroid failure. They did not progress. 34% of patients progress to overt hypothyroidism, and 9% of patients reverted to the normal TSH level. So the thing I want to emphasize is only this 57%, 34% of patients who are going to progress to overt hypothyroidism needs treatment at the stage of subclinical hypothyroidism. So how to identify those patients? So this is something about the cardiovascular risk in subclinical hypothyroidism, and this is a data which shows cardiac function in subclinical hypothyroidism, and the most consistent cardiac abnormality across the studies reported in patients with subclinical hypothyroidism is impaired left ventricular diastolic function. There is no study which conclusively shows that there is impairment of systolic function. Systolic function is always impaired. It's always the diastolic function which is affected. Now this is some epidemiological data. Subclinical hypothyroidism is associated with adverse prognosis in heart failure patients. So here you can see the patients who are euthyroid with heart failure, they fare better than the patients who are hypothyroid, subclinical hypothyroid, and who have cardiac failure. But mind you, this is not an interventional study. This is just an observational study. They have not documented that if you supplement it with levothyroxine, the outcome improves. It is just like vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency is associated with increased risk of diabetes. But studies have not consistently shown that if you replace it with vitamin D, it will reduce the risk of diabetes. Now this is subclinical hypothyroidism and risk of coronary heart disease and mortality. I will straight away take you through this. So again you can see there are various studies which have addressed this issue, and the results are not consistent. You can see many studies don't say that subclinical hypothyroidism increases the coronary heart disease and mortality. But many studies, they have shown that there is actual increase in coronary heart disease and mortality. So the final word is still not out, and it's still debatable whether a subclinical hypothyroidism really increases the risk of coronary heart disease and the risk of mortality. Now, talking of all cause of mortality, again you can see various studies, and again you can see the confusing results. Some of these studies have shown that subclinical mortality, some of these studies have shown it reduces the mortality. So now what is the truth? So again the data is very conflicting, and again the final word is not. Now this is data from UK. They identified 5,000 people more than 40 years old with TSH between 5 to 10. And they excluded the individuals who were on thyroxine therapy, who had a previous thyroid disease, previous coronary heart disease, stroke, and other vascular disease. So this is fatal and non-fatal vascular events. You can see that patients who are on levothyroxine treatment, this is sort of an interventional trial, though it's not an observation study, but we can call it as an interventional trial. The patients who are on levothyroxine treatment, the events were lesser for fatal and non-fatal vascular events over the period of 40 to 70 years. So it's not a prospective randomized study. So we can't draw a firm conclusion out of this. But yes, the data is there that the patients who are on levothyroxine, they fared better as far as the vascular events are concerned. All cause of mortality. Again you can see the patients who were on thyroxine therapy, their survival was more as compared to patients who were not on levothyroxine therapy. And these patients were the patients who were having TSH between 5 to 10. And again you can see in this meta-analysis also they have excluded the patients who are 70 years old or more. Because as I said, if you treat patients who are having age of more than 70 years, it can be more harmful with levothyroxine. Fatal and non-fatal vascular events, more than 70 years. Again, this is a sub-analysis of that group of patients, and they were already on treatment, they are not fresh initiation. And here you can see the difference is seen, but it is not as huge as the difference which was seen in patients who are less than 70 years old. And here you can see the difference is thinning down, all-cause mortality. In patients who are less than 70 years of age, the difference was huge, and here it is non-significant. So again, I am stressing with this slide that don't be very aggressive with the patients who are more than 70 years of age. Now, management. So, as I said, that this is a very important cutoff, 10. So, if your TSH is more than 10, then even if the patient is asymptomatic, you start with levothyroxine therapy. Now, factors favoring levothyroxine treatment in patients having TSH of less than 10. So, I would like you to take this, all of you to take this slide as a message, right? And you can consider this as the final slide, that when you should treat the patients who are having TSH of less than 10. So, therapeutic trial for clinical symptoms. Now, this is a very non-specific indication and very soft indication. The patient, as I said, if your patient comes with the problem of letharginess, patient comes with complaint of impaired memory, impaired cognition, then you can give a trial of levothyroxine, and you can say that look, we'll start treatment for about 2 months and we'll reassess your symptoms. And if you say your symptoms improve, we'll continue the treatment. Otherwise, we are going to discontinue. So that's the one approach. But you should not give a therapeutic trial in a patient who comes with history of weight gain of 10 to 15 kg, because that therapeutic trial is 100% going to fail. Right? So you have to judge the symptoms, whether these symptoms are due to hypothyroidism or possibly due to hypothyroidism, and then take the therapeutic trial. Now, degree of TSH raise, that is 2 TSH levels more than 8. That again becomes an indication for treatment with levothyroxine. Progressive TSH increase. The patient is in a regular follow-up, and patient gets a report from same lab. I have seen the patients changing the lab, and their assays also change, and so the TSH value also change. I am talking about patient who is regularly in a follow-up, checking from a same reliable lab, and if your trend is uptrend, then it becomes an indication for levothyroxine. Young age of the patient. Diabetes, pregnancy or intention of pregnancy. So this is the most robust indication to start with levothyroxine therapy. If a female who is planning pregnancy comes with even slightest level of TSH increase, even 5, you should not hesitate to start it. Goiter. So again, this is a strong indication to start with levothyroxine, because these studies have shown that to suppress the TSH levels with levothyroxine, there is reduction in the goiter size. Now, a very strong indication again, anti-thyroid antibodies. If anti-thyroid antibodies, and in my practice I take help of this test, anti-thyroid antibody, if it is positive with mildly raised TSH, go for the levothyroxine treatment in patients less than 70 years of age. Because there are high chances that the patients with positive antibody levels, they will progress to over hypothyroidism. One another important thing about the anti-thyroid antibody is that the anti-thyroid antibody, if they are present, they are drastically high. It will come as more than 1600, and the figures are alarming for the patient. They get 500. So it's our job to reassure the patient that this is just the marker of thyroid autoimmunity. It's not a therapeutic target. So don't chase the anti-thyroid antibody levels. And what I commonly see, once you advise, the patient becomes so obsessed with the anti-thyroid antibody level, every time they will come with this report, even if you are not advising. So that TSH so cutting to panana. So you have to explain the patient in very first visit that this is just a marker and it will remain high for whole of your life. So don't chase this, it is not going to harm you, and don't check it again. Then patient preference. Now this is a very common indication, but we should apply our wisdom whether to start the treatment or not, and we should not only go by patient preference, because naturally if the patient is coming to you, the patient wants some treatment. So it's our duty to reassure the patient that we do not require treatment at this stage. Dyslipidemia, another strong indication, infertility and ovulatory dysfunction. I have seen many patients suffering from infertility and who had subclinical hypothyroidism, not being treated and going repeatedly for IVF cycles, and just by starting levothyroxine and bringing the TSH in reference range, they have conceived without IVF. It is that important. So these are guidelines and recommendations By and large, the guidelines and recommendations are common. Guidelines and recommendations say that any TSH more than 10 should be treated, and any TSH between 5 to 10 should be treated on individual basis. Particularly, if the antibodies are positive, you should treat. And any TSH more than 10 and elderly patient with normal T3 T4, you should exercise caution before you advise thyroxine treatment. And any TSH between 5 to 10 in patients more than 70 years of age should be left untreated. So that is the knots of all the guidelines. Now this is the how to treat. So treatment of choice is oral levothyroxine. So only oral levothyroxine is available in Indian markets, and that is the treatment of choice. And patients without cardiac disease, a weight-related levothyroxine dose approximating 1.5 microgram per kg per day. But again, I would like to correct this slide that the dose of 1.5 microgram per kg per day is for patients with overt hypothyroidism, not for subclinical hypothyroidism. So, high TSH with low T3 T4, you start with this dose. But patients with TSH of 5 to 10, you start with a lower dose. Start with 25 microgram, start with 50 microgram, and then go on gradually increasing dose every 2 or 3 months. Patients with cardiac disease and elderly start with a lower dose of levothyroxine of 25 to 50 microgram per day. Now, the serum TSH should be rechecked 2 months after starting levothyroxine therapy. Because of long biological half-life of levothyroxine, it takes a while for TSH to come down. So, you should not titrate the dose more frequently than 2 months duration. So, you should not call the patient back after 1 or 1.5 months. Wait for 2 months before titrate the dose again. The aim for most of the adults should be to reach a stable serum TSH in lower half of the reference range. So reference range is 0.4 to 2.5. For reference range, that is the target range, 0.4 to 2.5. And in elderly, any treatment for subclinical hypothyroidism should be individualized and gradual and closely monitored. And in elderly, we should target a TSH of around 1 to 5. So we should be more lenient with elderly. Now, follow-up of the patient, as I said that patients having persistence of clinical hypothyroidism, thyroid function should be tested 6 monthly for first 2 years and then yearly thereafter. And this is for treated patients. If you decide to treat the patient with levothyroxine in patients with subclinical hypothyroidism. Once the patients are commenced on levothyroxine treatment, then TSH should be monitored at least once a year. So that's all about subclinical hypothyroidism. Thank you for your attention.